Good morning. Good morning. Jambo. I'll teach you 2 Swahili words today. Jambo, hello. Asante sana means thank you very much. So that's pretty much my Swahili. I think Lisa picked up a few more. Oh, karibu is welcome. Karibu, welcome. So, welcome. What? I don't know what that means. There's always a heckler in every crowd, right? So I want to thank each of you for staying and spending a little bit of your time Sunday morning with us. We are excited to share our trip with you and our experiences. And I also want to identify 2 of our other travelers that don't go to Norwich, but went on the trip with us. So if Bev and Kathy would stand up. So we had 15 of us on the trip, and they went and just were a lovely addition to the Norwich group, and my sister-in-law. So you'll see the people, myself, Ken and Sue, Teresa and JD, Lisa and Brian, Joan and Ed Schaefer, who has since now moved to Colorado. Lori Lala is my sister-in-law, married to my brother Jay. Peggy Detweiler is a friend of mine through Mount Mercy. Patty Wise is a member of Marian Christian Church, so she went. Kathy and Bev, and then Sarah Kendall, and she's also a friend from Mount Mercy. So there was 15 of us on this Tanzanian African mission and adventure. So next slide, John. So we ran away from the Iowa winter to a hot and sunny Tanzania. And so this is what we left behind during our 2 days of travel to Tanzania. So we left Cedar Rapids, went to Atlanta, then to Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and then down to Kilimanjaro Airport in Tanzania. Next slide. So these are the airplane maps on the airplane that you can see how far you're going. I choose never to look at those because I really don't want to know. It's just a really long way. So, but somebody took a picture. I don't know whose picture. Lisa. Yeah. Well, I think Lisa was a little afraid of flying that far over the ocean. So it's a long way, but we got up and walked around and we see one another, and it was just lovely. So next slide. So here we are, the Kilimanjaro Airport, around 9:30 that night that we landed on February 11th. And here we are, the 15 of us, and about 45 suitcases. I'm not kidding, 45 suitcases. So we each could check 3 bags. We used 1 bag for our personal belongings. The other 2 bags were donations, so things that we collected, whether that be school supplies, medical supplies, you name it. So we had lots and lots of stuff. And then I said to folks in the group, you know, I'm going to buy a lot of stuff that I will then bring back to sell at Arts for Africa, so your suitcase will not be empty on the way home. And I think I filled like 6 or 7 suitcases. So yeah, so that's us on our arrival after 2 days of weary traveling. Their time, they're 9 hours ahead. Bev asked what time. So we left Cedar Rapids on Friday, February 10th, around 5 a.m., and we arrived 9 p.m. their time on Saturday, February 11th. So 2 days of travel, but they're 9 hours ahead. Next slide. So Modest Bayou is our guide and also the founder and director of the Tumaini Schools. He came back, he's been to the United States once, and he came to our church and did a presentation and led the service that day, so many of you were probably here at that time. Our drivers were Emmanuel, Hamisi, and Peter, and Peter. They were our gracious and very experienced drivers, and this is the Jeep Land Rover. So they were at the airport to pick us up on that Saturday night, and they were with us the entire trip for those 20 days, and then they dropped us back off at the Kilimanjaro airport when we departed. Hilo was another driver that joined us for one day, but so we had 3 of the safari vehicles. There's 5 people plus the driver that can fit in each of those, and so we did that, and it's great. It's lovely, but yeah, and I think the Peter came from the walkie-talkies, right? So they have CBs in the Range Rovers, and Peter has driven me 3 times of my visits there, and I was in Hemises, and he would go, Pita, and he wasn't answering. I'm like, let me try. So I'm getting on the CB, and I'm going, Pita, and he didn't answer me either. So, but I'm sure the other guides were like, get that American lady off the CB. So, next slide. So the beauty of Tanzania, it's a very rich and fertile ground. You'll see some of I call it the red clay of Karatu. It's a volcanic clay because the Ngorongoro crater exploded some 2.5 million years ago, but you'll just see the beauty and the agriculture and what, there's bananas and all kinds of things that they grow there, very agricultural. Next slide. So these are just some of what you might see along the road. So I'm going to try to use Brian's. This is a lady pulling weeds, which we also kind of found funny. These are just some kids along the road. These are some cattle and goats, and you have to literally stop to let them pass. This is a man on a bike, and there's some wood in the background. Kids singing at the Tumaini school. They carry a lot of things on their heads, so this is how they transport things from the markets, water, etc. And then these were, again, along the road. You'll see right here, there's some red bananas, if you can kind of see them. Those are grown in a specific area that we were at. Are they sweeter? What do they taste like? They're sweeter. So people would run up and try to sell you fabric, bananas, you name it. Next slide. So again, this is kind of like what we would call a strip mall, let's say that, okay? So you can kind of see this is nothing fancy. Tanzania is a third world country, like most of the countries in Africa. And so it's not very progressive, let's say that. This is a house, or perhaps another little shopping area, and people kind of build as they have the money to build. So they don't build it all at once. So they'll build it as they have the money to do that. This is a cellular tower. This is in Arusha, so this is kind of a bigger city that we flew into, and very busy with a lot of traffic and a lot of motorbikes, and they also use that as a form of transportation. You'll see some of our group took a motorbike ride. So I did not, I stayed in the bus. Next. So what were our accommodations like? That was a question that I got a lot from the group. What are we gonna eat, and where are we gonna stay? And we ate very well. In fact, everyone said, I eat more here than I do at home. And our accommodations were very lovely. So our first 2 nights in Arusha was so this was one of it's 2 rooms. Here's inside. We have obviously the mosquito nettings. This is our group, and there's Bayu, and he's giving us instruction on our first full day in Tanzania. The second morning, unbeknownst to us, there was a clatter on the roof, and these monkeys were on the roofs of our units, and they were throwing things, and Lisa thought somebody was out there doing something they shouldn't be doing, and she was very annoyed. It was early in the morning. So she had Brian go out and figure out that they were... So here's the monkeys to welcome us on our second day in Tanzania. Next slide. So this is at the Bougainvillea Safari Lodge. This is one of my favorite places in Karatu. I stay here pretty much every time I've been in Tanzania, and it's kind of my home away from home. So it's beautiful. This is the entryway. This is the dining hall. So this was our table that they had set up for every meal. This is when you arrive. Karibu is welcome. These are one of our rooms and cottages, just very lovely, and the staff was so accommodating. And every day we came back and we had a little pool party. So you'll see, here we are enjoying and refreshing of the pool at the Bougainvillea. Karatu is where the Tumani Junior School is located. So, next slide. This is also the Sonye Safari Lodge at Lake Eyasi. So Lake Eyasi is the home village of Lightness, which is Bayou's wife, and she has started a medical clinic at the Lake Eyasi area. They also have now built this lodge area for volunteers to stay at, which is just lovely. So here they are welcoming us. This is the front door of one of the rooms. Here we are in the front patio. Here they are doing some laundry, and here we are sitting around the campfire. So this lodge also provides hospitality training for the Lake Eyasi vocational school, so they can learn hospitality. Next slide, John. This is our tent at the Serengeti. We spent 4 nights in the Serengeti, what we call glamping. So it's glamorous camping. This is our dining hall here. We had a staff of 10, and we were the only group at this facility for those 4 days, which was really lovely. So they were just lovely, lovely people. They would sing for us. They would prepare our meals, whatever we wanted. So this is a unit. This is when you walk in, you unzip your tent, and this is a bed, and then you had a desk and 2 nightstands. Then you walked back and you found your shower. So here's the shower. You pull this little chain and the water kind of trickles out. But first you have to tell them what time you want to take your shower that day. So you tell them, I want to take it at 5:30. I want to take it at 5 a.m., whenever. They heat the water and then they put it in this bucket on the back of your tent. So this is where your shower goes. So you get in there, they say, okay, it's ready, and you pull the chain and the water comes out. And then you shut it off and you soap up, and then you pull the chain because you don't want to run out of water. You can't take a 20-minute shower. But I have asked before, like, oh, I need more water, and they'll go race and get it for you. So they're just so accommodating. So next slide. So this is upside down, but everybody, the staff would always sing to us. There was always a lot of joy and celebration, and that was one of the comments that we heard, is that people were always celebrating something. So they were always joyful and just had a lot of happiness in their lives. So next slide. And this is the Pamoja Farm Lodge in Karatu. So after we left the Serengeti in 4 nights, this was our lodge back in Karatu. So this is the walkway. These are our rooms. Brian, Emmanuel, JD, and Teresa. This is the swimming pool. And this cracked me up. On the rules, because there's no lifeguards, it said swimming costume required. I just think that's kind of funny. And then this is a group that all had gotten special clothes made, much like my dress today, Teresa's, Kathy, Sue's pants, Lisa's shirt. We all had some clothing made and to bring back, and we're all wearing that today. So we wore this all one night for dinner. Lisa can tell you the story about her hat that she's got on today as well. So just a lovely, the nice thing about this is all of the grounds was an active farm. So they were raising coffee beans, they were also raising bananas, and all the lodge rooms set around this farm. So it was just very lovely in the rich, fertile soil of Karatu. Next slide. So evenings, sunsets, they don't have marshmallows in Africa, which I know sounds weird. So we take marshmallows, we take chocolate bars, and we take graham crackers, and we introduce them to s'mores. So you can see he didn't like it, she did. You can tell by his face he's not thinking this is the hottest thing. But here we are grilling out. We did this in the Serengeti, and the staff just loved it. So they go out and they find the twigs for us, and then we show them how to roast a marshmallow. So that's a new experience for them. Next slide. Of course, there's always time for shopping. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a huge shopper. I can never get enough shopping, and I always like to bring things back to Sell at the Arts for Africa event. So Bayou got us a 24-passenger bus, so here we are going shopping. We went to a Maasai market, and you always negotiate, you know. So here's a funny story. Went to a wood shop one day, and they have beautiful wood carvings. And I would pick out the items that I wanted, and I put them on the table. And Bayou was there, and the guy started adding up the prices, and Bayou said, "I'm going to stop you right there, sir. This woman is the queen of Karatu." That's what he calls me. I am the queen of Karatu. So this woman is the queen of Karatu, and these items are not for her. These are to come back and sell for a fundraiser for the Tumani schools. So you need to give her a better price. Oh, so then he lowered his prices for me. So it's helpful to have an influential guide with you. Next slide. So shopping happens in a variety of venues. Here is kind of a shopping area in Karatu. These are I don't know what we'd call them, hawkers, I guess? Street vendors. You can barely stop your vehicle, and they swarm like a swarm of bees around you. They see white Americans who think they have a lot of money, and they're going to buy all of their trinkets. So they'll come up to your, it's kind of funny. They'll knock on your, "Oh, pretty lady, do you want to buy this?" No. Here's a butcher shop. So people really do not have electricity, running water. So every day they have to go to the market. So here's the butcher. No refrigeration, but you just got the meat hanging there. So yum, yum. This was the African hand-printed t-shirt shop. Bev, where are you here? Oh, Tanzanite shop, right? So here we're shopping for Tanzanite. So Tanzanite, Brian has a ring on today. Bev has a ring. I have my ring on. Lisa has her earrings. So Tanzanite is a beautiful purplish blue stone that is only found in and mined in Tanzania. So it's a very precious stone. So we also have in Karatu these little gift shops. Here's the Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama shop. You'll also find George Bush, you'll also find Donald Trump, and usually if they catch you taking a picture of their shop, they want money for it. So you cannot just take a picture. I don't know who took this, but God bless you. Yeah. But these people, once they found your name, then you'd be walking through the Karatu village, and then they'd be, Lisa, and okay. So now they know our names and they know where to find us. It's like we're magnets. This was an African gallery shop, and these are, I guess, antiquities of some beaded things. I actually bought this lady up here, and I look at her every day. I just love her. She's my best friend now. So, next slides. Here's the Karatu market. So every day, they have to go to the market to get their food to feed their families. So this is the market. So you find fresh fruit, vegetables, and here's dried fish. I don't know. This is Kathy with one of the vendors, but again, they have to go every day to buy their food. So next. The basket shop. You'll see that we have a few baskets for sale. We'll have more at the Arts for Africa event in September. But this is at Eileen's Tree Lodge. And these ladies, I'm trying to look where they're at. There's one. They hand make these baskets and then they sell them. So I always like to go and support these local ladies as they are making these baskets. So here we are shopping and just having a great time. So there's Sue and Peggy and me and Sarah and Patty, Lisa. So enjoying buying the baskets. Next. fabric stores. So lots and lots of fabric stores, and like Kathy's got her dress on today that she picked out the fabric and they measured her and then they made it for her. And then she came back a day or so later and picked it up. So here's me, here's Joan Schaefer, here's Teresa wearing her exact outfit today, and here's us in the fabric stores. But just beautiful, stunning fabrics that a lot of times I use them for the table coverings for Arts for Africa. No, I mean, it's many times made in Tanzania or Africa, but they don't necessarily weave it. So, but the dresses were custom made for you. They measured you, and then you're like, this is never going to fit. But it does, amazingly enough. Next slide. This is the wood carver shop, and these are a particular tribe, and you'll see they hold things with their feet. So Lisa wanted to see, gosh, their feet must be all scraped up, and because they're carving with holding their feet. No, their feet are not disfigured at all, but beautiful things. This is the wood shop, and it's a particular tribe, the wood carvers. Here we are negotiating again, and you'll see more wood carvers here, but it's so fascinating to go and just see the beautiful work that they do. And it's a lot of times made from the black ebony wood. So black ebony is a tree that it actually grows, the black grows inside, and as it ages, it grows out. So you'll see, like Brian and Lisa brought their large giraffe and their elephant and it's out there. You'll see it's got a combination of a lighter wood and the dark black ebony wood. Next slide. So this is a market outside. It's twice a month. It's an outside monthly gathering for people to buy just about everything and anything you'd ever want. So our group went because to me, it's just an experience. We were the only white people there, and you can buy everything from solar panels for your home to a goat to tires. You name it, food, everything. This is kind of like this gentleman here. These are all like elixirs, kind of natural herbs and medicines, kind of like a witch doctor-y kind of thing. And this is his explanation. So you'll see just people. These are big pallets of used clothes that come through Africa on big container ships. And they come in this huge tarp. You just open the tarp and people just dig through the clothes to buy. So these are just clothes. Here's some goats. I actually wanted to buy a goat because I thought, I want to just buy a goat. And Peter said, well, he can stay at my house and I'll raise him for you. Well, the one I wanted was very pretty, had long hair, was $150, which I thought was a lot, so I didn't, but maybe next time. Here they're barbecuing goat. So there you go. We never ate goat that we're aware of. We would eat beef, chicken, fish, pork. And then you'd have your other sides with it. But that was usually the meat. But they a lot of times eat goat. It's a very affordable meat for them to eat. So again, this was... thousands of people go to this. It's the 7th and the 25th of every month on this same ground in Karatu. So people just know I can go and get my items. So next slide. Here's Lisa's best friends, Mr. Promotion and his entourage, always following us, trying to sell their stuff. See, so which one's Mr. Promotion, Lisa? Yeah. Take your pick, Mr. Promotion. Oh, one was I'm Mr. Cheap, so I'm cheaper than anybody else. But they're all virtually selling the same thing. So Lisa gave them $5 for taking this picture and said, split it between you guys. This is the group of us that went to the market. So myself, Patty, Sarah, Lisa, Ed, Joan, Brian, and Peggy. And again, we were the only white people there among thousands of people. And they were very friendly, they were very nice, but we were, we're the minority there. So, yes.
There was a disabled person that came up to Kelly during this time when we were there, and Mr. Promotion or one of his entourage guys did go up and stop the gentleman from touching Kelly. I don't know if he was touching your face or your hair. But during our dialogue, because I said, I'm not buying anything from you, we'll get the picture at the end for $5. And they were so proud of this market, telling us all about it. But they were also our protectors too. As we encountered them many times while we were in town, they came to know us quite well. So they did come to Kelly's rescue. And I don't know that person would have hurt her, but they did stop some of it for being aggressive.
Yeah, he was touching my face and they don't see a lot of white people, so they're interested in that. I've had little kids try to scrape off the paint. They think I'm painted white, so they're trying to scrape off my paint. I'm also a larger person, and they don't have large people there because they walk everywhere, so everyone's pretty thin. And white hair, you don't see white hair. So that's why I'm the queen of Karatu, let's face it. So. But yes, they were our protectors, and they got to know our names and who we were. So next slide. Shanga is it's just a really wonderful place. It's a place that people with disabilities can go and make a small living, and they recycle glass and cans and bottles and all kinds of things. So here they are, and we loved supporting them. So we bought some items from them, and they had a very lovely gift shop, but this is how they self-support people with disabilities. And it's hard to be someone disabled. A lot of times you're banished from your village or from your family because they don't know how to deal with you or how to take care of you. And so a lot of these people might be, just banished from their homes, and this is I guess how they support themselves at Shanga. Next slide. So we ate very well. Usually our meals started with a soup, and they were delicious, creamy soup, spinach soup, vegetable soup, broccoli soup, just lovely soups, homemade breads, and then a meal that included, rice and vegetables and sides. This is ugali, but it's like a French fry ugali. Ugali is I don't even know, a cornmeal base that you eat with your hands. And we went to a restaurant and they made it into these. So that's lovely. This was a pizza one night. Here you're going through the buffet. There's Kilimanjaro beer and Coca-Cola. So the Kili beer is pretty good, I think, Brian, right? Yeah. And I drink orange Fanta. So that's what I drink when I'm on safari is Fanta, but Coca-Cola and Kili beer. So again, just coffees. There's a lot of coffee plantations and farms there, so coffee is plentiful. Not sure what that is. Oh, that's rice and beans. Here we're setting out and eating. This is a dessert. When you go on safari, so you have a lovely breakfast, and then you're out all day, so they send you a box lunch. So this is one of our box lunches, and it's very good, and we never eat it all, so we take the good stuff and we take it back, and they give it to the workers. One day, we're at Lake Minyara having lunch, and Kathy, we got some red bananas. So the red bananas were sitting on the table. Well, all of a sudden the baboons came down out of the tree. They grabbed her red bananas and ran back up, and we're like, it happened so fast, didn't it? So you really can't leave anything sitting around because the animals will get it. Next slide. So Lou with a view. Here's the toilets, and here's what we call a squatter. And if you would go to the bathroom, like at a park, so at a lodges we had normal toilets, okay? But if you're at the Olduvai Gorge Museum, for example, there might be 4 stalls. 3 of them are the squatters, and 1 is a regular toilet. So for women, I don't know about the men. You guys have these too? Yeah, thank you. Lou with a View was out in the Serengeti, and it was after the balloon ride, right? I remember I did the balloon ride in 2005, so these guys all went, and Kathy and I did not go because I'd already done it, and Kathy was not feeling the best. But I remember sitting there, and a zebra walks by, and I'm thinking, I'm sure she's wondering, what the heck is this lady doing? So if you also want to, if you're on safari and there are no bathrooms, you just say you want to kick the tire to your driver. You get out of the vehicle, you go to the back of the vehicle by the big tire, and you do your business, and then but you can't throw anything on the ground, so you have to, put it in a little plastic bag, put it back in your pocket, and then you get back in the vehicle. So you learn to do a lot of things you would never do, so trust me. Was there a question? It is a doggy bag, yeah. Next slide. So, bodas is a form of transportation, very common form and very cheap for them to get around. So here we have Teresa, Kathy, where's JD? Right there. And this is Ava. She's the volunteer coordinator at the Tumaini schools. And this is her main guy that she rides with. So she called them all out, and they took a ride up to the Gibbs Farm Lodge and had a beautiful ride going, right? Little bumpy? Not bumpy. So off they were. So next slide. So here's the Tumaini schools. Welcome to Tumaini schools. Their motto at Tumaini is Strive for Excellence. And there's morning assembly starting at 7:30 in the morning. So kids start arriving at 7. Some are bused, some walk. Others are boarding students at the schools. So there are 3 Tumaini schools. There's the Tumaini Primary, which is 3, 4, 5-year-olds. There's the Tumaini Junior, which is kindergarten through 7th grade. And then there's the Tumaini Secondary that's been in existence for 4 years, and that is 9th through 12th grade. And between all of the students across all 3 campuses, there's around 1,200 students. But their motto is Strive for Excellence. Here's Bayu with the number 1 student. They take national exams every year. And this particular Tumaini student was the number 1 girl in all of Tanzania, which is pretty amazing. And she actually, Teresa talked with her, she wants to be an astronaut. And Teresa was in the military and flew helicopters, and so Teresa talked with her about how that might happen. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool. But I know Lisa's going to come up and talk about the Tumaini schools, and Brian's going to talk about their building project.
We really don't want to keep you here all day, so we'll be brief. Go ahead, next, John. So many students live right at the schools, starting at age 5. Which that just broke my heart as a former kindergarten teacher. Can you hear me now? That broke my heart when they said they have a 5-year-old. That was their youngest student. But they sleep in dorms. That happened to be the girls' dorm. Are you doing? Thank you, Kelly. And that's their suitcases. That's what they bring. The toys over there, those were the toys in a preschool room. That's what they have for toys when we talk about being grateful for what we have. Drinking water was out in these great big tubs, and they just went out and filled up their glasses when they wanted a drink of water. Bibles, a Swahili Bible, that's their main language, and then English. But there was a Swahili Bible and an English Bible on one girl's dorm bed. Next slide, please. Unfortunately, I had several videos in this. It's not working with our system here at church, so you're missing out on the drum corps when they have morning assembly, Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings, where they bring all the students together at the Tumaini Junior School. They start by playing some drum cadence, and they were just so proud. And then the kids all gather in the middle with their staff, and they let any students who want to get up and speak to all those students there. It's a way to help the children become public speakers. And so they can get up and talk about whatever they want to and what they're grateful for, as well as administrators. They got chewed out one day about their scores. Parents of all these students come once a month and they talk to their teachers, kind of like mini conferences. And there were 2 grades where their math scores were not high enough, and so they got chewed out by like the principal there that said, your parents are concerned, stop playing and start studying a little bit more. That is the Tumani School main building. There are offsets with more classrooms on the side. In the middle is the morning assembly area, and behind them is like their recess area. You'll see that was just a picture taken of all the students. There are some students there with disabilities as well as Muslim students there. Next slide, please. Just a variety of pictures of work that missions and donations that has supported Tumani schools over the years, thanks to Kelly, bringing Tumani schools to Knoll Ridge. Those are tables. We paid for those a couple of years ago, Kelly. And so to help the community, instead of ordering the tables and having them delivered, they hired people in the village to build the tables. So they reap the benefit of our donations, and then the high school receive those for their dining hall. Kelly and Bayou, the La La Land Playland, is that what this called? Playground. That was the last year's? Was that last year's support? Okay, 20 and 2022. So down below are some of the pieces of equipment that are on the preschool playgrounds. And then there's our donations to the schools. And of course, Kelly has her Arts for Africa signs wherever she goes, and Z102.9 stickers for us to wear. And then again, that was a classroom. Right. Okay, next slide. Then this was the mission work that several of us did. Most of us went into the classroom and read with the students, did flashcards with the students. There were some people that did go into the kitchen. Kathy was in the kitchen. What were you making? What were those? Washing spinach leaves. And you'll see great big, huge containers of spinach. Ed and Sue. Sue, what were you making? You might want to talk about your experience in the kitchen. Again, just pictures of us working with various students. That's a classroom. And you'll notice on the backs of the walls, it's very plain, or if they have posters, it's all handmade. There's nothing bought. It's not glitzy. It's very concrete walls, plain floor, no air conditioning, windows. That's it. Next slide. Again, more pictures. The two on the left are libraries. Teresa, do you want to say anything about the library?
No, one of the big things, they're really big on reading and learning to read, and of course all their books are in English, so they're learning, and most of their school is in English, so they're learning English. But these guys just had this love for reading in the books, and this group was about space, and so they were just having a great time with that. Oh, just a second. One thing we did an art project. I don't know if she's got a picture of it, but they were asking us about where we lived, and we're trying to explain snow to them. So we had plain white paper, and we had them cutting out snowflakes so we could show them what a snowflake looked like.
I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, they start teaching the children in the preschool English when they start coming in at age 3. And that's what they expect them to speak at school is English. Speak English always. Right. Their signs are all over. Okay, next slide. All right, Brian, you're up.
So when Kelly brought it up about going, and I showed interest in it, I told her, I'm going to go over there, but I want to do something. And she told me at the time, one time they were building houses for widowed women and kids, but they weren't doing it at the time we were there. So, but Bio had a vision of having a deck built. We didn't have any idea what we were getting into, but so we get over there, and Bio and I and Ken and JD and Ed, we all walked off, and so he was explaining what he wanted. So outside this one classroom, when the kids act up, they lose their recess privilege. And so he wanted this deck built just outside the classrooms. Well, when all the kids go out for recess, these kids had to sit on the deck and read books. And I said, oh, so you want a kiddie jail built? He goes, no. Well, yeah, we want a deck, a reflections deck. Like, I go, well, essentially, it's a kiddie jail. Okay, it's a kiddie jail, but we can't call it a kiddie jail. So when he showed me where it was at, which out of this classroom right here, so I said, okay. I said, how big do you want it? He goes, well, from here to here, and from here to here, and I'll put a roof on it and stuff. And I go, okay. I said, you got a tape measure around here? Well, we'll get a tape measure when we go to the hardware store, after we go to the lumberyard, get the material. I said, well, I kind of need to measure what we need for material. And so he kind of looked at me, and JD and Ken go, now what are you going to do? I go, the old-fashioned way. I went 3, 6, 9. So it ended up, it was about 15 feet by 10 feet wide, and they wanted a roof on it. And JD, he goes, well, what are you going to do about the height? And I go, I can almost reach 7 feet. So about how much higher? And said, double. I said, okay, we'll go call it 15 feet. So that was our measurements to figure out material-wise. So we go to the lumberyard. We have a picture of that? So we go to the lumberyard, and it's all rough-cut lumber. I mean, it's just processed in there. So we had to pick out a lot of the best stuff, and they had a machine that would cut it. It was a table saw and a surface planer and an edge planer, so that way they could clean all the wood up and make it like normal wood we'd buy at Menards. So we started here and laying it out to the point of, well, this is after the fact. So here to here. So we got the poles built, the deck built, we got the railing on, and we started to doing the roof. And so I crawled up on the rail. I asked for a ladder. It's like, well, we got a ladder. Well, when they went to get the ladder, it was broke. I said, well, we're going to need a ladder. So in the meantime, I crawled up on top here and hanging onto the poles and marking things off. And so when it came time to put the roofing on, like there, I said, okay, we need the ladder. Well, the ladder's broke. We'll build you a ladder. Well, they didn't build us a ladder. Pretty soon, if you can see right here, that's 2 tables. And later on, we had a chair. Once we were on the outside, in order to reach up high enough, I said, no, I'm not doing a chair. They brought a 3rd table, so we had 3 table-high scaffolding. And I don't know, it was JD that said it. He said, what does OSHA say about that? I said, it's Tanzania OSHA approved. And in reality, those guys, from the deck board, the pieces that we cut off, they actually put those on top of the table and then put the next table on, so the table leg isn't put all the weight in one spot, it spread it out. So, and I got up there and I wiggled and danced, and it was very, very strong. So then these kids here, we were finishing up one day and they were standing along the wall, and I could just tell they were dying to get out on it. And so I took a picture, and then I said, go on out there. So all the kids, their smiles, I mean, the smiles on their face and they just got out there and they just loved it. So, and then there's a bunch of other kids there and everything. And then that was, Mr. Carpenter. Quick story on him. The first day, he brings a bag and he's got all these tools in it. And we're working away, and I'm kind of explaining stuff. Trying to, communicate with him, which I don't know any Swahili. But I was able to say enough and kind of do hand gestures he understood. And about 3/4 of the way through, I said, you seem to understand what I'm demonstrating or whatever. I said, how do you know all of it? He said, I'm a carpenter. I said, why did you tell me that sooner? I said, what's your name? And his name was about this long. And I looked at him, I said, from now on, you're Mr. Carpenter. But he knew everything we were doing. I mean, he's very experienced on it. Oh, well, I thought maybe Ken wanted to tell that story.
Here, look at it.
You want to do it?
was the saw store?
The saw that you give to Mr. Carpenter. That is so touching, and if I'd known what was going to happen, I would have videotaped it, but because that would have been precious.
Well, the guy I was working
Hold it,
with.
hold it up. It's on, but hold it up.
Up? Duh. Yeah, he was a hard worker, enthusiasm, and it's just his bag didn't have a lot of great tools in it. And the saw is kind of critical over there, but he could run a handsaw like you wouldn't believe, the one we had. And wasn't when we had one or something?
Yeah, the Bio bought a brand new handsaw, and when Mr. Carpenter saw it, it's like he's doing all the cutting. He wouldn't let us have it. It's an old handsaw,
Yep.
and it's a short one. It's not so long.
Yep. And then we'd go up to the tool store. Well, when we were buying stuff, remember that? We said, well, we're going to need re-rod or we're going to need bolts. Well, they didn't have bolts.
Bolts.
You don't get bolts, so you get re-rod, and you're going to have to cut it down and use that to build things with. And it was that, and then, well, tape measure. We got a decent tape measure, didn't we?
Tape measure, hacksaw. They did have a Bosch electric drill that was 240 volt, and there's a little story a little bit after that.
But yeah, and then we got, and then it's kind of wrapped things up. But I thought the guy ought to have a tool, so I bought him a saw, and he seemed to really like that. So, but he, you know, it's just
More than that, Ken. I was watching. I looked over. Ken is handing him the saw. No, Ken bought him a brand new handsaw and handed that to him. And I could, as I was watching, and that's why if I'd known I would have videotaped. So, and I could tell that the guy's like going to hand it back to him, and Ken's going, "No, that's your saw. That's for you." And he took the saw and he kissed it. And that's what I'm saying. It was so touching, and I wish I could videotape that. Yeah, that's more.
yeah. Anyway, he deserved that. He did. I mean, and the kids coming out, I think they all want to be in detention now, but, they really thought that was the greatest thing ever. And you left out the interesting part. The poles are really like,
Oh, they were so crooked.
yeah, so crooked, and we just kind of had
The
to,
poles?
it was like
they're just
weaving.
Like a small tree that had all the branches on it. And it did. It literally was like this. Yeah.
So JD'd stand back and say, oh, that one needs to be, we kind of work our way through it, so,
Yeah, the middle one was way out.
yeah.
I grabbed it, pulled, Mr. Carpenter nailed it. Unbelievably, the thing turned out really, really well for what we had to work with, and try to figure out how we're going to build it of the material and everything they had there. That was a challenge.
And nailing on the corrugated steel on top was unreal.
Yeah.
You guys hanging out by yeah.
So the drill is 200, it's 240 volt electricity. We have 110 here. So I said, you got an extension cord. They brought out an extension cord and had it set in there. Well, their guys were off at 3:30 and we were still there working away. And so I told the JD and Ken, I said, I'll go unplug the cord so we can roll it up. I walk into a kindergarten classroom, and here's two bare wires, 240 volt plugged into that outlet. No plug, no nothing.
Yeah.
And I go back out and I tell them, I took a picture of it and I showed them. And I go, and they were worried about us dropping our nails so the kids don't pick it up and poke themselves. And I go in the classroom and here's this power.
Bare wires, yeah.
So, but it's just, it's their way of life over there on some of this stuff. But the kids are so well disciplined that they would not go over to that wire.
So the construction resources seem so backward. How do they actually build a school?
Carefully.
Same way. They have their own blueprints, whatever ideas, however.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's in time.
That would be a
Same
good
way we did. We
good
just have
investment for
But they are familiar on what they were doing.
And
donations.
the big 4-story, I was there when they were building that. Literally, like those trees, that's the poles holding up that 4-story building. it's kind of crazy. So, next slide. Next slide, John. Oh, there we go. So this is the primary school, and that is the 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. When we went, we drove up in the bus, and they were holding a big sign that says, "Welcome Kelly, Lala, and Friends," and they're singing a song. Of course, I'm bawling, so. But here you've got Sue. Here they're doing a dance that we'll have to show you at a later time. This is my sister-in-law, Lori. Here's Sue and Teresa. Again, these kids, they just steal your heart. I mean, that's the basic thought, I think. Lisa, being the teacher, was always right down with them. She was so wonderful with them, and so they just, she was a magnet to those students. So Brian and Lisa are going to go back and spend a month. That's what I'm trying to tell them they have to do. So, but this is the pre-primary, and just lovely kids. You really want to just take them home with you. You really do. Next slide, John. The senior secondary school. So here is, they teach STEM programs there. This is their library. This is, they have to write a book, kind of a senior thesis. This is a classroom, and as Brian mentioned, they have to speak, so they speak English. So Tumaini's are an English-speaking school. So they have to speak English, and there's signs up around the campus that said, "Speak English always." And then they would probably speak Swahili, and then probably a tribal. So many of those children speak 3 languages. But the Tumaini schools always are in the top of all the schools in Tanzania. They do a fantastic job of educating these students. So, next. We also visited the FAME Medical Clinic, and it's Foundation for African Medicine and Education. And I first visited this in 2011. This is Dr. Frank and his wife, Susan. Dr. Frank was an anesthesiologist from San Francisco, and he and his wife, Susan, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and he got sick on the way up. And his Sherpas raced him down the mountain and basically saved his life. He had what they call an aha moment and decided to give up his life. So they came back to San Francisco. He gave up his practice. He sold all of their belongings, and they moved to Tanzania. And they started FAME Medical Clinic, which is initially a mobile clinic that they would take mobile medicine out into the bush for the Maasai, for the people that live in the bush. Now it's just an amazing facility. They have their own laboratory. They have their own operating suites, operating theaters, they call them. They built a new OB birthing facility. It's just amazing. They were building a new ER that's supposed to open this fall. And when Dr. Frank found out that Brian had done some building at the Tumaini school, he wanted to hire Brian to be his contractor and oversee the project. So again, Brian and Lisa need to go back. I'm just saying.
How do they fund that then? How do that?
FAME? So FAME is by donations. They might charge a little bit, but it's very, very affordable for patients, and they won't turn people away. But they use volunteer, you can sign up for 1, 2, or 3 month stints as a MD, a doctor. So doctors and nurses from the States, they have a volunteer program. Susan and Frank come back about anywhere from 4 to 5 times a year to do fundraising. So it's all by donation. So, and you can get on their website and see that's just an amazing work that they do. So, next slide. So here is kind of a reception area. This is their, basically their pharmacy. So, operating theater staff only. This is a CT, a CAT scan machine. This is kind of the grounds area, but just I mean, it's amazing what they've done since I first went there in 2011. It's pretty amazing what they have, so.
It's still really basic.
Still very basic, and they still have their mobile clinic that does go out. And these people you know, they'll walk for miles and hours to get to Fame, to come to the Lake Eyasi Medical Clinic. It's truly amazing. So, and you know, they have so many things that we have vaccines for, or that we have medicine for, that, you know, that they die from every day, which is really unfortunate. So, next slide. This is the new, which they were building in 2018 was I was there. This is the new birthing area. And this was a very touching piece of artwork on the wall that I just thought was really beautiful. So, next slide. We went to church. We went to a Catholic church on Sunday morning. So it was the children's service. They had 3 services that day, and we went, and Kathy and Patty, the students, were dressed up, and they were coming, and the Tumani students actually do the music, so they sing that day. So next slide. So this is outside of the Catholic parish. This is the Tumani students singing. There's Lisa with her entourage of students as everywhere she went. And they're building a new parish, but here's their parish, and then they wanted us to get up and talk, so we did get up and say a few words, and then they also wanted us to sing. So I said, well, let's sing Amazing Grace. So we got up and we sang Amazing Grace to them. So, pretty cool. Next slide. So Peter, my driver of 3 times, his wife Martina, and their 2 girls, Glory and Salome. So this is Peter's home. It's not finished, but he wanted us to come over to see his house. He was very proud of his home. So they had us over. I said, please don't go to any work. Well, of course, they had tea and coffee and water and peanuts and little snacks. And this is one of the girls' bedrooms. This is their kitchen. This is the living room area. But he's very proud of this house. And I asked him, how much would this cost? And he said, maybe $25,000. And that's a lot of money for them, a lot. But he's not done. He's got, you know, some areas around here that he needs to landscape, and they have a small garden, but they do the work as they can. So, and as they have money. So, but a lovely little family. So Glory is 10 and Salome just turned 6 about a month ago. And she wanted me to be her new grandma. So she loves me, and she's just a charming little girl. I just adore her. So Salome and Glory. Next slide. This is the Bushmen, the Hadzabe, and they live, and unfortunately the video won't work, but this young man was telling us in their language, and he wanted to know our names, and so he was trying to say our names in his native language. But this is the Hadzabe tribe. They live off the land, and they move around based on the animals. This is one of their huts. Let's see. Oh, here they're digging tubers. So they had the men go out on a hunt. Brian, you want to talk about that? The hunt? So the men went out on a hunt. So some of our group went out on the hunt. Lisa and I forget who all, we stayed behind and we dug tubers with the other ladies. But here they're out. This is, I mean, literally they live off the land, and it's quite amazing. But you want to talk about the hunt? So they have to go out every day to get their food.
Next slide.
It's the second one.
Oh, yes. The second picture. The second picture is the hunt, and the guy that Kelly was talking about that was doing the talking, all that. He's the one there in the light blue shirt, and he actually had to kill. It was a monkey, and they hunt whatever they can get. The dogs you see there, it's kind of like back here at home. They use the dogs, and they track down. They'll track down the monkey, and they'll chase the monkey up the tree, just like back here in home they do as coon hunt. They use the dogs to chase the coons up the tree, and then they take the coons out of the tree. And that was the same thing they did there. They got, and the guy when he was doing the talk and stuff, he was actually explaining different arrows, and some were just sticks, and some had metal arrowheads on them. So depending on, they have those arrows with them, depending on what animal they come across, that's the arrow they use in order to kill their animal in order to feed the tribe. And the men, when they go hunt, they hopefully will get the food to be able to feed the whole tribe. Well, they only got this little monkey. But other than that,
Arrows and everything.
yeah, they make their, they're, but here, you go out to the Shields and you buy a bow and arrow. Well, there, they find a certain tree, they cut it, they clean it, and then they use the tendons out of their animals that they kill to string the bow.
Sinew, right?
Huh?
Sinew.
Yeah. And then their arrows, they just get twig, I call them twigs, but it's branches off the tree, and they clean them all up and then try to get the straightest ones. And of course, they're not straight, they're kind of like this. But it's unbelievable how accurate those guys were with those. Here we gotta have this perfect straight arrow. There it's. Yeah, I had a chance to eat the monkey, but opted out of it because I just didn't know what might be in there. Well, so that's why I didn't. But
And then the women, you'll see the fourth picture, all the beads. So the women make the beaded items, and we were able to purchase some of those to help support the tribe. The top picture on the right is them performing a dance for us. So, next slide. Here's some of the hunters. There's JD, Brian, and Ken. Notice they didn't keep them there with the tribe. They sent them back to the United States, so.
that is harder than what she said.
So, next slide. And then we also went to the Tatoga, which is another tribe, and they do metalworking. And so here's their items that they are, you'll see the top picture on the right where they're forging the fire. And then some of the bracelets that they were making. You'll see on the bottom left is Lisa and Joan, and they are grinding the corn for cornmeal. Next slide. Maasai tribe. Teresa will talk about the Maasai tribe.
Okay, the Maasai people, one of the ways you can tell them is most of them are very tall. So like when we went to the schools, you'd see all these kids and then one like this that's still the same age as the others. You knew it was a Maasai. You see in that bottom left picture that the Maasai women, the Maasai also, you see them wearing red. That's another way that you can see somebody or identify somebody from the Maasai tribe. These folks are herders. They're not farmers. They live mostly off of the meat and the milk from their animals. The hut that you see on the top left side, the man brings the materials, and then the woman gets to build her own home. And the materials are sticks and dried cow dung and mud. So that's the things that those are made out of. It does not smell once it's dried. The
Maasai are also, you have a chief, and he has multiple wives. So each hut is a different wife.
Yes.
So you have one chief and you have multiple wives within the village.
This particular chief had 31 wives. And the legend, or what they tell us, is that 10 cows will buy you one wife. So they dance. All of these tribes sing and dance. All the people of Africa, it seems like everywhere we went, people were singing and dancing. It's part of their culture. The Maasai have an additional thing, and that's that they jump. When they're singing and they're jumping, and the men especially, they just stand here and spring up high and land again, and they keep jump up high and land again, and they keep doing this. And this is supposed to be a display of their strength and their prowess, and supposed to help attract women to them, is to show that. The bottom middle picture is their kindergarten. So all of you teachers who think you have really bad environment to teach in here in the United States, this is going to be kind of dampen that complaint for you. This is their kindergarten. And again, these kids are singing and dancing and saying their alphabet for us. It's a stick hut, just an open air stick hut. On one end is a bench, on the other end is a slate that has their alphabet on it. And their teacher has a 7th grade education. She's the one in the yellow with the blue thing. So, yeah, but they were very proud of this because they teach their kids their alphabet and their numbers in basic English before they go to kindergarten. So they're very proud of or go to the official state schools. So they're very proud that they start teaching their kids before they go to the state schools. And the right picture is a pair of sandals. Do you recognize the material those sandals are made of? Tire treads. They recycle everything there. And so tire treads are cut up and a couple straps put across them with the sidewall material, and they make sandals out of them. JD did have a pair of them, but we re-gifted them to one of our sons at Christmas time.
So these you could buy when we went to that market, you could buy these sandals. And here's Bayou with some of the women, and of course I always give them my Z102.9 stickers. So Bayou says you'll see those on motorbikes and bicycles all over. So next slide. So they put necklaces around us and the fabrics. So here we are, a part of the Maasai tribe. Next slide. Sue, Lake Eyasi Medical Clinic is founded by Mrs. Bayou Lightness, and we volunteered there, so our nurses, and Sue will talk about that.
Yes, we had the privilege of spending a day volunteering there, and we brought 2 nurses, and Kathy worked as a technician. I got to do weight and measures as I was, I guess, greeting and registration. The day that we were there,
Next slide, John.
yeah, the day that we were there, they had an open day where they had invited people to come in, so they were expecting around 400 people to come in that day.
And services were free that day.
That's right, that's right. So we had an opportunity to interact and to really get a sense of the needs of that community. We brought suitcases and suitcases of medical supplies. We came close to filling their pharmacy, which was wonderful. I think thing that we did that was very impactful was we donated a portable ultrasound machine. And Kelly and I had the privilege of being in the room the very first time that they used it. They were amazing. They pulled that thing out of the bag, they plugged it in, and they knew exactly what to do with it, using it.
So I just want to say, Sue and Ken bought this portable ultrasound machine, so to donate to the clinic. They have been, Lightness is here. She had wanted a portable ultrasound since 2018. When Sue presented it, she literally burst into tears.
And I think, Kelly, you know some statistics from the standpoint of the amount of use it's had and the impact that has had in their clinic and being able to treat and to, with that tool, being able to send people on to other.
Next slide.
Yeah.
So in the week that we were there, so we were there for one day volunteering. That week, Lightness had shared with us that they have used the portable ultrasound 35 times. Of those 35 times, here's Sue. I don't know if you can, why is this not on all of a sudden?
Yeah, it's on.
Oh, it's on. So this is the technician, and there's a young gal laying on the bed. This was her friend, boyfriend, husband, I don't know. But here's Sue seeing the ultrasound being used for the very first time on that patient, which was pretty impactful. They, of the 35 times that they've used that in the first week of its being there at the clinic, 9 serious things were discovered, including
One of the patients that my doctor and I saw was a patient who was 7 months pregnant and had some preeclampsia, but they also found that her placenta had started abrupting, and so they shipped her to the Fame Medical Clinic where they did an urgent C-section, and that baby was born quite healthy. And had she just not had the ultrasound and just gone back to the tribe, we probably would have lost the baby and maybe the mom.
And maybe the
because
mother.
sometimes severe bleeding occurs with that.
So I think the message to us is that the most impactful thing is that we went to Africa, we met the people, we fell in love with them, and we changed some lives.
One of the other things we found with the ultrasound is we had a 17-year-old girl that had a very large, enlarged thyroid. And doing the ultrasound, we were able to determine that it was not a cancer, but actually an overactive thyroid, and that she could be treated with medication and not have to travel all the way to Arusha or Karatu in order to have medical treatment. She could be treated locally. These other towns with the hospitals are anywhere from 2 to 3 hours away, and so this is not easy for people who have no form of transportation to get there and to get to that type of medical care.
I have a question. So if they do pass through buildings like that, so far away, do they have to walk?
They could possibly, again, funds are always an issue. They could possibly hire a driver to take them. There was one lady that was seriously in need of additional medical care, and they were told, this is what you're going to need, and she's like, I can't do that. So she was probably just going to go back and not survive. It's really heartbreaking. And again, it's things that we commonly see all the time. I know Teresa and Sarah and even Bev was working in the lab and drawing blood, and Kathy was a runner for one of the doctors, and just to see this is their pharmacy. So they put whatever the pharmacy, Kathy was running the prescriptions from the doctor to Peg and the other lady, and they have these little envelopes that they put your meds in, and that's how they send it home with them. It's not a bottle, it's not a written out prescription, it's like, and whether they're gonna take it or not, we don't know.
One of the things that we had a lady who had had a severe ear and sinus infection and had lost hearing, and she was there for some other reasons, but we were talking about that, and the doctor wanted to send her to Arusha to an ENT doctor, and they did not have insurance, and the cost was prohibitive, so they just decided that she'd just learn to live without her hearing. And I said, you know, that stuff happens in the United States too, that people don't get medical care because they can't afford it. And she looked at me and she said, I thought everybody in America got medical care and had insurance, and she was really surprised to find out that we have some of those same problems here.
This young man, you'll see he's got a new pair of glasses on. And they had an optometrist doctor there, and we, with the help of my friend Margene, Margene, raise your hand. Thank you. She collected, I think we had about 500 pairs of glasses that were donated and collected that we took. So the doctor then would look at these, and then she would give them to the patients after she'd do a very brief exam. And this young man wrote me a letter that said that he always struggled with his studies because he could not see. And he feels that now he will be able to do very well on his exams because of his new glasses. So, very touching. In fact, Discerning Eye Optical is a client of mine, and she donated a lot of glasses as well. And I gave her that letter, and she's got it framed in her business in Iowa City. So when people say, well, what do you do with these glasses when I get new ones? Do you want them? And she said, oh, yes. And so she's very proud of that. Next slide. This is Lightness and her vocational school with that she's helping young ladies that maybe has gotten pregnant, maybe they've been ostracized from their family, for whatever reasons they're not in school. So she is helping teach them vocational training. She's also helping teach them to get a degree so that they can go on and further their education. When we first met them, I was always surprised at what they would stand up and introduce themselves, and then they'd say what they wanted to be. So they didn't let whatever life had given them derail them from their goals. Maybe they wanted to be a doctor or a teacher or a nurse, and I was just like, God bless them for not just giving up. So here Lisa and Kathy are giving likeness from their sorority, the donations that they were raising. This is the girls, and just super excited and blessed to be a part of that service. Next slide. So this is our construction crew painting. They're going to be opening a nursery school. So this is them painting. This is them sewing some fabric. This is Patty, and she was teaching as well. Ed was probably dancing with the kids, would be my guess. And here they mission work supporting in Taylor, English, hygiene, daycare, painting. So they're always trying to better themselves, and they support themselves. They live there. They have a dormitory with their children. So it's just, and right now I think there's 12 students at the facility. So, and this was founded by Mrs. Bayou. Next slide. So this is Lake Eosse at the sunset. Beautiful lake. These are the fishermen. They're bringing in their nets from the day. You want to say? No. Okay. So if you count the fishermen, there's 12. And so they were like the disciples. So that was pretty special. Next slide. So then they had a big party for us and thanking us. So this is Bayou and his wife likeness, dancing. They gave us fabrics. They thanked each one of us. A big celebration. You'll see there's Bev dancing. I forget who's all here, but people are up dancing with the students and just celebrating our service and our mission. Next slide. This is one of the days that we just felt like this was, God talking to us from the skies, and just the beautiful landscape in the Serengeti and streaming through the clouds. Next slide. So we went to several national parks. We went to, this is the, no, I guess it's not. This is the Ngorongoro Crater. This is Tanzania National Parks, the Serengeti entrance. This is the vehicle, and if we could tell you how rough the roads were, it's hard to even describe.
Where's the Cedar Rapids roads? Any street in Cedar Rapids, we learned we were not going to complain when we came home, because it was awful.
So it's literally, they say, an African massage, because you're literally bouncing, like Brian, look at Brian, that's what you were doing for about 6 hours as you're driving to the Serengeti. So it's kind of crazy, but yeah, we had a video, which unfortunately we can't show you because it's not working, but next slide.
We'll go really fast. We know you're hungry.
The goal is to see the big five. So lion, rhino, leopard, Cape buffalo, elephant. The big five, I've been there 5 times. Do I always see the big five? No. I generally never see a rhino, and I generally never see a leopard or a cheetah. But we were very fortunate. When we were in the crater, we saw 9 rhinos in the crater, and even the guides would say, this is spectacular, this never happens. So to see 9 of these guys is pretty amazing. You'll see lots of lions, Miss Cheetah here, Mr. Elephant, I call him Ellie's, and then the Cape Buffalo. And why are these the big 5? From a safari hunter, so someone who would hunt these animals, these are the most dangerous African animals. That's why they call them the big 5, and that's the trophies that the hunters go after. Next slide. The Ngorongoro Crater, here's our group at the rim of the crater. It's a collapsed volcano, 12 miles across. The rim is 7,500 feet above sea level. The neat thing about the Ngorongoro Crater, that it's completely sunken in with all the sides intact. And it's just lovely. All the animals live down here. So they live in the base of the crater. The only animal you will not see in the base of the crater is a giraffe. because it's too steep for them to get down with their legs. So, next. So the Olduvai Gorge is where Lewis and Mary Leakey discovered the first human fossils back in 1964. So this is the museum. This is a replica of what they discovered. This is still an active archaeological dig. So here's our group, and it's really interesting. That's where the evolution of man was discovered, was in Tanzania at the Olduvai Gorge. So next. Lion King Rock. This is like the Pride Rock of Lion King. So we saw those in the Serengeti. This is JD, and the reason they took this picture is his daughter was in this exact same place taking a picture when she was in Tanzania. So these are actually like fossils and bones of previous enjoyed animals. Next. So balloon safari, here they are up in the balloon. It was a sunrise. They came to pick them up at 4 a.m. It was a sunrise balloon safari, and it's one of the largest baskets in the world. It holds 16 people. So there they are. I just think that's the coolest thing. So here you're up above, you're seeing the animals. A lot of them are going back to, for example, hippos stay in the water during the day because they have very thin skin, which sounds funny to me. They can get sunburned. But at night they come out and they eat and they graze. So a lot of times you'll see hippos going back to the watering hole.
For most of us, this was our first balloon ride ever. We felt incredibly safe because our pilot was Moses.
The pilot's name was Moses. Yeah, next. So they follow no road. It's just, I mean, you can just see how incredible, what an experience. It really is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The whole trip, but also this experience. So, next slide. So baboons and monkeys, as I said, one monkey especially like the red bananas that Kathy lost, but tons of baboons. You'll see the baby baboons, and this was in Lake Minyara, so they have literally hundreds of troops of baboons. Next slide. Are they dangerous? That's a good question, Betty. I don't think you'd want to cross them. If you'd go after any animal with their babies is very protective. So if you'd go after their baby, they'd probably rip your arm off, yeah.
They'll take the red bananas away.
They would take the red bananas,
No,
yeah.
you don't take it from them.
So lots of giraffes we saw. Here's a whistling acacia. So there's, when the wind blows, the wind makes, it's literally like a whistle. So lots of giraffes. Next slide. Gazelles, hartebeest, dik-diks. Where are the dik-diks? Oh, this little guy. He's a little dik-dik. They mate for life. They're very small. You'll see he's got a little black at the base of his tear duct, and he marks his territory with that black tar. So they don't venture far out from their area. They do mate for life, and they're just the cutest. They're like a little miniature deer, but they're teeny tiny. They're not very big. You'll see gazelles, the hartebeest, beautiful impalas. I mean, and you saw like hundreds, thousands of these. So these guys especially, the Thompson and the Grant gazelles, they're everywhere. Next, the wildebeest by migration with the zebras.
Zebras.
What?
The zebras.
Oh, the zebras. And here you'll see some lions. The thing that's amazing to me is, here you've got zebras and wildebeest back here, and the lions are here. They'll only attack when they're hungry. They eat about every 3 to 4 days. And they're living together until they're hungry, and then they attack. So
they eat each other?
Just the lions.
the lions will eat the wildebeest and the zebras. Yeah. The lions are the king of the jungle. So, zebras and wildebeest are really stupid animals. They don't have a very good brain. And the zebras are smart, and they know if I hang out with the dumb wildebeest, they're going to get eaten before me. So the wildebeest will run in circles, the lion will get them and eat them. But the zebras can go on their merry way. So the zebras and wildebeest eat different heights of grass, so that's how they can migrate and live together. Next slide. So the zebras, you'll see this little guy, he's a little brown. So when they're babies, they have their stripes are more brown. This guy, I love this picture. I don't know if he was cooling himself on the back of the other zebra. This one was kind of sad. You'll see right here where the pointer is, a lion tried to take him down, but he got away. And he is got a big boo-boo on his back side. You'll also see these birds. The birds pick at the site of the wound, and they keep it from getting infected. So they eat the bugs, the maggots, the other things that would come to that. So, but this zebra was lucky, he got away. We did see 2 kills. Brian.
I didn't get to see it actually happen.
So we saw a lion take down a zebra.
Keep going.
We saw a lion take down a zebra. Next slide. And then we also saw a cheetah go after a gazelle. So this is wildebeest. Pumbaa is warthog. Crocodiles. Here's the more wildebeest. But I mean, big crocs. And so when the animals come up sometimes to the watering hole, they're very skittish because the crocodiles can come out and eat them. So next slide. Oh, here's baby Pumbaa too. Jackals, hyenas. I say hyenas and warthogs has faces only a mother could love. Because they are not very pretty. To me, they look very evil. And here's mongoose. Who said they're cute? Bev, you think hyenas are cute? Ooh.
Their face,
No. They're evil.
not their being, not anything about it.
Next slide. Mr. Cheetah. So, and you can just see how beautiful the leopard and the cheetah's coats are. I mean, they're just beautiful. Next slide. Just some of the birds we saw. So Bev was into birds, and she took a lot of these pictures. These are the lovebirds, and they were in a tree right next to our place at the Bougainvillea. Not sure what all, this is a starling, ostrich, the weavers. So what they do is they build a nest, and then they invite the ladies over. And then the ladies decide who has the best condo, and that's who they mate with. But they're very particular, so if they don't get selected, they have to like up their ante a bit. So those are the weavers. These are like big storks, and this was what was him? Oh, a crown crane, that's right. So it's also interesting, you don't think about ostriches in Africa, but there are a lot of them there. So
The brown ones are female and the black ones are male.
yeah. Next slide. Hippos. So here's Brian's friend you saw along the side of the road one day. But here's the hippo pools. They smell really bad. Like really bad. Here's what they do. They go out at night and they eat. Then they go back and they're in the pools and they poop all day. And they just stay in their poop all day. So it smells horrible. And you can see kind of some greenish, that's their poop, and they just wallow in it all day. So, yeah.
So why did we have to stop at every pool and stand?
I know, it's just fascinating though to see all the hippos. Ken just wanted to know why we had to stop at all the hippo pools, but
So basically, you wouldn't want a hippopotamus for Christmas.
we would not want a hippopotamus for Christmas, no. Next slide. So again, the big 5, rhinos, Mr. Lion, Ellie's, cheetah, Cape buffalo. Oh, leopard, sorry.
Leopards are in the trees, cheetahs are on the ground.
That's right. This one, she had hid her 2 cubs over in a rock area that we found. And then she was up in the tree, and she had dragged the impala or whatever she killed, a gazelle, up into the tree to eat it. So Brian has a picture of her laying in the tree, belly full, and the skin of the impala or whatever she dragged up there hanging above her. It is. Next slide. So here's the elephant. Here's a baby elephant. Next slide. The black rhinos, and see they're kind of in with the buffalo, so they're kind of trying to hide themselves. But again, we saw 9 in the crater that day and a baby as well, so kind of unreal. Next slide. The buffaloes, they are mean. You don't want to get in their way. Next slide. The lions. Here's the little cubs that were all playing and just kind of sitting there posing for us in the crater. And their moms are like, one's here and one's over here. Their moms were not too far away from them. So you'll see there's more lions, and I don't know what's on her lip, but something. Next slide. This is the lion before she came down from the tree and went and killed the zebra. And here, walking across, here you can see there's Brian. Look, I mean, we're so close to the lions. It's pretty incredible.
So the top picture.
Yeah.
So that picture there, we did see the zebra kill, but Emmanuel is our driver, and he went flying up in there and got up close. And he jumps out of his seat, kicks his shoes off, jumps on his seat, flips his observation top up, jumps up, which is illegal to do over there. You're not supposed to be on top of the vehicle.
No.
But there were several vehicles that were that way. And our observation deck was up, and he turns around, looks down at me, and he goes, "Brian, up!" So I get on up there, and that's me on this side. So I get on up there, and I was able to see the grass was probably this tall. It was real tall, and it dipped down. And I was just able to see the zebra laying in the grass with the lion standing on top of her kill. Wow. But Lori has the actual kill, the takedown.
The video.
Yeah. So, but then after this, Emmanuel, he told us, he said, "Brian's the only one I've ever let up there because of what I saw him do at the school, hanging on all the scaffolding." But he said, "I knew Brian would be safe up there." But their group did have a guy that just all of a sudden jumped up there and fell off and broke his leg like several years ago. He said that's why you're not supposed to be up there.
Funny.
Next slide. Oh yes, here's the leopard. Here's the kill. So you can see she's sleeping, her belly is full. Now right in here is where she hid her baby cubs. There was 2 back in here. And they were quite a ways away. So, next slide. And yes, there's even rainbows in the Serengeti after a rain. So you can see it right here. Next slide. After a very muddy ride to the Serengeti airstrip, Ken and Sue returned home a little bit early. And we again sang to them, but again, the video's not working today, so I apologize. But here they're getting ready, and this is the Serengeti airstrip, and they flew from the Serengeti back to Arusha to board their flight home that day. We were sad to see them leave us early. Next slide. So even though we have mosquito nets, doesn't mean that you don't get eaten up. So here's Lisa with the mosquito that was in her bed. Here is Brian and I got eaten up by mosquitoes, and they leave lots of bites and very itchy. So next slide. The African massage, as you'll see in a video, is very rough roads. Next. Sunrise, I think. Was sunset? Next. And then Bayou and Lightness, this is their new home, and they had a farewell party for us, and it was just lovely. Next slide. So goodbye, Kelly's group. Here we are on their property, and we had a big buffet dinner, and then they played videos for us of pictures and things they had taken, so it was quite lovely. There is Bayou and Lightness. Next slide. Heading home on March 1st, again with all of our luggage, after a very lovely, once-in-a-lifetime trip. So here we're getting ready to go into the Kilimanjaro Airport. Here we're at the Kilimanjaro Airport heading home on March 1st. Next slide.
I had to do it, Kelly. I had to. Thank you, JD.
This is all of us, as you can see, kind of weary. Yeah, kind of weary. It was a long trip home, but we made it. Last slide, maybe. After 36 hours of travel, we arrived safe and sound back to the airport in Cedar Rapids to be greeted by the Knowlridge family, which was what a great surprise. Thank you so much for those of you who came out to the airport that night. It meant the world to us. And we just felt very blessed. So I think, is that all? a Santa Sana for a trip of a lifetime. So thank you so much. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer those. I know we went lots longer. We could certainly talk all day about this trip, but Joanne.
Can we get everybody from the African group right up there for just a little bit of the video?
Yeah.
Everybody get up there.
So Africa of Travelers. We're going to stand here. Is that okay? Thank you, guys. Where's JD? JD!
I didn't talk about my hat while we're waiting for JD to come in, but it was like July weather there when we were there in February, and my hair was an absolute mess every single day because it just was. And so I went into the sewing class that day, the tailor class, and I said, I'd really like a headband. So the teacher rips off a piece of fabric, wraps it around my head, ties it, and there's my headband. Well, then, later on, the girls made me this Kofi. And you know what? It covers up a real big hair mess. So it's fun.
No, you gotta stand out here so they can see your
I
face.
actually,
Nobody hide behind anybody.
okay, wait. JD, can you grab my phone that's on that thing? I want you to take a picture with my phone so I can send it to Bio.
First, though, this. You didn't want me to grab it.
And give it to me. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
nobody hide behind anybody. Okay? Get it set up for me, please.
I think I shared it with all of them.
Yeah, I can.
Really, we don't all have 13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ready? You want me to take like 3?
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
There were over 13,000 pictures that Sue collected from all
Yeah.
of us to go.
13,000 pictures.
And we
So,
thank you very much for taking your time to go through all those pictures to show us.
Well,
thank you. Thank you.
How much money have you raised for that school?
I started raising, my first trip was in 2005. I started raising funds in 2006. I'm well over $100,000 that we've raised for the school. So, yeah. Thank you.
How many sponsors do they have? Do you know?
Well, there's a couple out in the East Coast that they do so much more than me, Carol and Frank. And
So what?
well, they actually pay for the volunteer coordinators to be on site. They
Yeah,
sponsor
that's fine.
students.
I don't care how much they make, I just wondered, you do well. You do well. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Bev. They, Frank is a retired professor from MIT, so he's the one who does the STEM program at the secondary school. So they go like 4 or 5 times a year to go with that school. They get major corporate donations. I mean, they do amazing. And again, they were just like me. They were on safari with Bayou. He was our trip leader and guide, and that's how they met him. So I met him in 2005. They met him in 2008, and they've been supporting and helping the school grow by, sponsoring libraries,
Awesome.
by building buildings. I mean, they sponsor students, and you can through their website sponsor a Tumaini student. It's about $1,800 a year, which includes room and board, all their books, all their uniforms, everything. So you can sponsor that through the Tumaini Education Corporation. So, thank you guys so much. We appreciate it.